Jam.
They were like,
What's
thanks,
the
I
famous Pearl
guess.
Jam song? What's their biggest hit?
Biggest hit. Jeremy. What else did Pearl Jam do? That was that grunge music, man. I was an 80s hair band kind of guy. That was,
Pearl Jam.
you couldn't listen to about 3 songs of it. You'd want to just bang your head up against something, and not in a good way. Yeah, it was not a...
So you wasn't a big Pearl Jam
No, not really.
Okay, what about Rush? What's one of Rush?
I was a big Rush fan.
Rush. What's a popular Rush?
Oh, Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer.
Closer to the Heart.
Give me the hook.
And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. That's Rush. Guy's got a weird high pitch sounding. It works good with the music. They had the drummer named Neil Peart. He died a few years back, but he's widely considered to be the best rock and roll drummer ever to walk on the earth. Like, he's up there with, I could name a few. Chad Smith with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's pretty iconic.
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
I am too. Yes,
most definitely.
Especially because they're still around. Isn't it wild that those guys, they abuse themselves more than the Jackass guys did, and they're still, making music.
There's a lot of those guys. You look at like Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
Like, how these guys still?
How is he still alive?
The Rolling Stones.
That dude.
But you know what? What was the guitar player from the Rolling Stones? He looks rough.
Oh, Keith Richards.
He
looks rough, man.
Oh my goodness. He's like, how this guy still?
He's looked rough for a long time, though, man.
Exactly.
He's been. But all of them, they carry a semi-truck full of a gym with them when they go on tour, and they work out like crazy. And I'm sure
they still touring. I believe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it's amazing.
I don't understand.
I wonder what it has to be the love to continue to do it, because I know they got more money than they know what to do with.
Has to be, yeah. I'm sure they're making more money off of royalties at this point than they're making by touring.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it has to just be the love of.
Yeah, that's just what they do.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. We're like David Letterman. As long as I can, I'm gonna do it. This is what I do. This is what I love to do. While I can, I'm gonna. You know.
Wow.
Dude retired. Said he was done with it, and all he did was grow his beard real long, and now he's just got another show.
Yep.
It's a trip.
How awesome is it to do what you love?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
It is.
I wouldn't mind getting paid a little bit more.
Oh, most definitely.
But, but there you go. For the Stones, I mean, they've got more money than, some countries probably, and they're still out there touring. That proves definitively that it's not about the money.
Not at all. Not at this point.
No. You've been doing it for that long. You got that much money, and you're still doing it. It's because that's what you want to. Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk could have been fat and melted into a lazy boy 10 years ago. Dude was skating at an exhibition at the Olympics this year, and looked like he was pulling off some crazy stuff too, man. He's a couple years older than I am.
Oh, so what you think? Pushing 60?
I think he's 57 or 58.
Wow. I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah.
I would have gave him maybe 45, a few years older than me.
No, he's definitely in his 50s. I heard him on a podcast recently. I say recently, within the last year probably. He went on somebody's podcast and just talked about it, But this guy bought his own house. He bought his first house, cash money from skateboard winnings when he was still in high school. So he was like the most popular kid in school. You got a car?
What you think? Early,
silly boy. I got a house.
Late 90s? Early 2000s, Tony Hawk?
Probably no. I would say early 90s.
Mid 90s?
Or late 80s. Probably late 80s. If he's a little bit older than I am, I'm 53. And in 1990, I graduated high school. I was 18.
I probably didn't learn Tony Hawk's name until like maybe 97, 98.
I was a skateboarder when I was younger, so I knew his name probably 5 years before I graduated high school. So, yeah, he was already a big deal then. He invented a whole new trick called the McTwist. And it was...
The McTwist.
The McTwist. It was at the time revolutionary. Now most people can do it, and he's invented like a couple of more versions of it.
It's amazing how far sports came. Like, you look at athletes now, how they just keep getting better and better.
Oh yeah.
Have you been keeping up with the Olympics any?
Not really. No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, world
Simone
records.
Biles. How can you can't miss her, obviously.
Yeah, she got a gold, but
Got like the all
and
around
I want
gold.
to say this is her 3rd or 4th.
I heard she was the oldest gymnast to ever win gold.
I guarantee she is.
Yeah, yeah.
She and when you say old, she's probably only like 31, 32 years old.
If that.
If that.
If
And that's
that.
old.
She's probably not. No, I think she's in her late 20s.
Because you think most of them start out
But-
they come into the Olympics at 16.
Yeah, but they get them doing stuff that a grown body just can't, it's hard to do. Simone Biles is what, like 4'4", 4'6"? She's less than 5 feet.
4'6".
You ever seen that
at
picture of
most.
her next to Shaq?
No.
That's hilarious, man.
I know she's the shortest one on the team.
Yeah.
If you look at the whole U.S. gymnastics female team, she's the smallest one out of all of them.
But she hustles.
She does.
Yeah, she hustles.
I was a little disappointed with her last Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics,
Okay.
because she had like they call it a mental sickness,
Oh, I heard
And she kinda
I heard
had
something
to
about that.
pull back, drop out.
Yeah, and there was a lot
you
of
know.
pushback on that.
I was
Yeah,
I was a little disappointed with her.
What happened though? Nobody really knows, right?
She had mental breakdown. I don't know what
That's a lot
happened.
of stress, man.
Exactly happened, but I guess she was on some meds or whatever, and she probably had a med issue or couldn't find her pills. But I think you think they would have, if that was a male, you think they would have got the slack she got? Because she came back into this Olympics, like I would look at her as a liability, even though she did pull it off this time. But I think from a male's point of view, we probably it would have been a harder road, or we would have got railroaded a little bit more for a mental problem, not a physical problem.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think.
Oh, you depressed? Oh, your
Suck
dog
it up.
died? Suck it up, dude. Get out
Suck
there.
it up.
We had the Olympics. This is the world stage.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Pick your head up.
pick your head up.
Keep on going. Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think a man definitely would not
Yeah.
be, and that's not a slight against Simone Biles.
No, not at all.
Not at all. We don't know what happened. If her
And
dog
she's
died,
still
listen,
a-
I got some dogs I love. It's still the Olympics.
That's not
You know
going to
what I'm
stop me
saying?
from competing in the
Yeah,
Olympics.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
cry when it's over.
But we don't know what happened.
We don't.
It could have been. I mean, I don't want to speculate. That's
Regardless of
irresponsible. But it could have
regardless
been
of what
something
happened,
terrible.
let's say you're, God forbid your mom or dad died or something. We at the Olympics. Am I fit to lead the Olympics early?
I mean, that's a.
They're already dead. I'll bury them when I get home. You know what I'm not going to bring them back to life. I'm just throwing out examples.
I would.
Or let's say that game where Michael Jordan's dad died. He still went out and
Still went out.
put like 50 on their head, whatever he did that game, and performed. And I think that was during the playoff, like a playoff.
Michael
run.
Jordan.
Amazing athlete.
That dude
Greatest of all time. Hands down.
in basketball
In
or in all of
basketball.
sports?
No, basketball.
In all of sports, who's better than Michael Jordan?
I mean, it's different sports and different levels, and it's different categories.
Who has changed the sport that they play, fundamentally changed the way the game is played more than did Michael Jordan? So in the 1980s, the Lakers, the greatest team of all time, in my humble opinion,
The Lakers.
Michael Jordan. Back then, I don't. After that era, I quit keeping up with it. I'm showing my age here. But the way they played the game changed the game. Showtime. It was always a fast break. They were always running it.
The Lakers.
Yeah.
You talking Magic Johnson,
Magic Johnson.
freaking Hakeem,
Michael
Abdul-Jabbar.
Cooper was always running down one side or the other. He was
mhm.
over by the baseline just hauling
That was a
down the
tough team to
court.
beat.
And you couldn't catch him. And you didn't want to really catch him because then you were leaving your guy open. But if you left him open, he was going to be alley-ooping underneath of the basket. That was a hard team to beat.
A very tough team to beat.
And you had Jabbar.
Hakeem, Abdul-Jabbar.
Best inside big man of all time.
What's my move my guy had?
That
man?
sky hook, man. That sky hook is
was
mean.
Mean,
Just-
vicious.
Just nasty. Magic used to do like a miniature version of it. It was kind of like a jump up, and it was like a flip side hook or something like that. It wasn't that real wide sky hook, but you couldn't. There's nothing you can do about that. And the dude was 7'2".
What you gonna do?
After he retired, he did a book signing tour or a signing tour or something. Anyways,
Abdul-Jabbar.
yeah. He was at remember those shoe stores used to have a basketball goal inside the shoe store. You go in there and actually shoot hoops on a real goal. He was doing those and down in Birmingham. And me and my dad loaded up in the car and went down to see him. And we stood in the autograph line and they cut it off before us. I'm like, no, I came all the way down here and they cut the line. Didn't get any autograph. We saw him.
Well, you probably can't miss him once he
for sure. We see him up there signing somebody else's basketballs. But then when he was done, he did like a mini press conference and they took some pictures or whatever. And he had him a Lakers uniform outfit. He had a Lakers uniform on and he just kind of shot some hoops while he was talking to this reporter. And, you know, he's about the 3-point line. 7 foot, 9,028 feet tall, shooting nothing but net while he's not even looking at the goal. He's answering a reporter's question. Oh yeah, that was back in, Portland or whatever. And he's just steady shooting them up. Somebody's feeding them to him and he's putting them up without even a conscious thought. He might've missed 2 the whole time we stood there and watched him. And It was incredible. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That was back when I played basketball, and I was thinking, man, how do you defend against this guy?
He's been the, number 1 point all-time leading scorer.
Somebody finally beat him.
Last year. LeBron finally caught him.
Was it LeBron?
And LeBron been in the league, 22 years? Came in at 7, I want to say 7.
It's hard to believe 18. LeBron's been in the league 22 years.
22. I think this will be his 22nd or 23rd season coming up.
I love that story
and finally passed him last year. I think he finally passed him, or year before.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about somebody passing him.
He just recently passed him.
I love that story about LeBron when he was in high school. I guess for his graduation present or whatever, his mom bought him a Humvee. So his mom buys him this Humvee, and he gets investigated, I guess, by the NCAA or whatever about how does your mom afford this Humvee, right? Mm-hmm. I guess they were of modest means, Everybody knew she couldn't afford this $100,000 car or however much one of those costs, right? So they did the investigation. Her mom had gone down to the local Humvee dealer, whoever sells Humvees, and said, hey, do you know who I am? No, I'm LeBron James' mom. And if you will give me a Humvee on credit now so I can give it to my son for Christmas or for, for whatever it is, so I can give it to my son as a gift, he's going to give me money. And I'll pay you back once he signs his pro contract and I get, he's already going to give me some money and I'll pay him back, but this would be my way of giving him a gift ahead of time. Anyways, that was what the NCAA found out. And they kind of felt stupid for investigating then, like some Karen called in on him or whatever,
Because that was before the NIL and all that. But
yeah.
Let's get this show on the road.
We should already got it on the road.
I'm pretty sure it's some type of recording going on, but
take it away, Q.
Take it away. All right, I'm Q the messenger. With Hustle and Pop Kettlecorn, where we have the world's best Kettlecorn, arguably, definitely the best in Huntsville, Alabama. And we're on Vendor Chronicles, where truth is stranger than fiction.
Very nice, sir. Very nice. Thank you. So last week, you had a whole prepared introduction.
Okay.
Dude, you had me feeling like, what was that guy on the Eminem battle? Papa Doc, remember when he got him so hard he couldn't even, at the end of the thing, he just had to put the mic down?
8 Mile.
I was listening to our podcast from last week, and you did your cool introduction, and I went, hello.
I'm Shane Knox.
So then I put together this whole cool introduction, and I practiced in front of my 14-month-old all day long. She did not seem impressed at all.
I'm pretty sure I will be.
I'm not sure I can even remember it now.
Go ahead. Let's hear
it. I really did forget. I did practice it all afternoon, but I really did forget.
Let's start with Shane Knox.
So, you know what? One thing we almost never say is this is Huntsville, Alabama.
Huntsville, Alabama.
Coming to you from 86 Kids Studios.
Shout out 86 Kids
Shout out 86 Kids Studio. It's a Monday night. I'm here with my co-host, Q the Messenger, our illustrious producer, Kevin Richardson.
Ooh, illustrious.
We're in downtown Huntsville, Alabama, people. Wherever you are, it's not as cool as where we are.
It's definitely not.
Look us up. This city is one best place to raise a family, best place to live overall by Consumer Magazine?
Yes, that's fact.
So, by the way, I'm Shane Knox with Knox Handmade Toys. I think we did that already, but there you go. That's our introduction. It wasn't nearly as cool as I wanted it to be.
Shane
I had it dramatic with inflection, and I just blew it. Mike Rowe would be so disappointed.
You'll get him next time.
We'll see.
You'll get him next time. That was definitely good though.
Thank you, sir.
Introducing the city.
Thank you, sir.
That we're so proud
Huntsville,
of.
Alabama. What a great place to live, do business. I love this place.
I do too. It's a beautiful city, especially where we're at right now.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm talking Big Springs right here.
Big Spring
river
Park
running through the
canal. Yeah,
the canal running.
Aren't they going to
the
expand that
city.
canal, or am I thinking about Mid-City where they're supposed to put in something?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't know.
I know we supposed to be getting like a walking bridge coming to the city.
Oh yeah, from Big Spring
big, fancy
to Low Mill,
bridge.
right?
Yeah.
Several
fancy walking bridge.
billion, 2.2 billion. Am I crazy with that number? I might be crazy with that number. Maybe it's 2.2 million, but it seems like I was at Low Mill a couple of weeks ago looking across the street over to where it's going to go to, and I'm thinking,
was you working an event at Low Mill?
Yeah, I was doing that Saturday parking lot.
Okay.
Setup that they do. Mm-hmm. You pay like $20, $25. As long as you pay it by Wednesday or Thursday. If you pay it after that, then you got to pay them an extra $5 or $10. But if you don't have anything on a Saturday and you're like, hey, let me pick up some money this coming Saturday, that's a good place to go. But yeah, it's a long span, man. I know it's not one single span. I'm just saying that's a long bridge that they're going to build. Yeah. It's not going to be for car traffic, I guess. I
don't think so. I know I've seen like renderings of it. A picture or whatever.
It looks fantastic.
It was a beautiful, beautiful bridge.
And it'll be on the skyline, that's for sure. Mm-hmm, it'll be they better build it good, because that's going to be a signature piece from, that's going to be bigger than Egg Beater Jesus.
Right. Egg
for
Beater
sure.
Jesus.
Egg Beater Jesus, right on Governors.
I didn't learn that was called Egg Beater Jesus till like earlier this year.
Really?
Then when I rode by it, I was like, that's definitely Egg Beater Jesus.
I met the guy that did that. Mm-hmm. He was a disc golfer.
Okay.
I played a couple rounds with him. I can't remember his name now, but he told me he did it. And I kind of was, whatever. We went to lunch and we went by there, and it's his name on there. He showed me his driver's license.
He definitely did it.
Yeah, it was him. I was like, oh man, I think he'd come in town to, I don't remember. I don't know, but either way, I met that guy.
So how was your week?
It was a tough week.
Let me get you first. You always get
you always get right off of the, all right, off guard.
How was your week?
Man, you know what? It was a tough week.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So during the week, I spend working on production, making toys, and that's all good. This week I had to go to the sawmill, so I went up there on Friday and picked out I don't like to call it lumber. That kind of makes me think I'm building a deck out back,
What sawmill?
I use Hobby Hardwood.
Never heard of it.
Shout out Hobby Hardwood.
Shout out Hobby Hardwood.
They're fantastic. Hobby Hardwood. Robert and Martha are wonderful people. Go to their website, hobbyhardwood.com. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not in the woodworking business, check out hobbyhardwood.com. It's a fantastic place to go. So I go up there. It's about a 45-minute drive, I guess, from downtown Huntsville. So pretty close to an hour from my house. Went out there and did that. Played around the disc golf and just felt way more tired than I should have been. Mm-hmm. Got home that night. Madeline kept me up all night. Yada, yada, yada. Woke up Saturday morning with a fever and the chills and just could not. So spent all day Saturday in the bed. Mm-hmm. Sunday, I was feeling much, much better Sunday. I think it was like a 24-hour bug, but I was just so weak from the day before I couldn't eat. And Madeline was still coughing a lot and whatever. I just decided to keep her home too. So we both stayed home yesterday. For me, it was more just to take care of her and just, give myself a chance to recover. My fever broke, early Sunday morning. But, so I missed both of my markets. I was going to set up at Low Mill on Saturday and the camp on Sunday, and I couldn't go to either one of those.
Yeah, we definitely missed you yesterday.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of those things about this life. If you can't go, you do not get paid. There is no human resources to, get redress. Can I burn some vacation days?
No PTO.
No PTO. No. It's
paid
either
time off.
Yeah. You either go or
right.
You either go or no. I'm trying to think of a rhyme, but there's nothing nice about it.
No, you're right.
If you stay home, you don't get. I don't know.
Well, I'm definitely glad to see you feeling better.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I felt a lot better yesterday, and then today I've been fine. I did work in the shop for a little while today, but that was my week. How about you?
Oh man, I Had a pretty good week.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's been a good week for me.
Okay.
Started out Thursday at Green Street, right here downtown.
Sure.
You know, Green Street, if you know downtown square, is like a block away from the square.
Literally on Green Street. Yeah.
Literally on Green Street.
Yeah, one street over.
Green Street. And then Friday, we was out at they call it, I don't know if you heard of it, but it's not far from where we live. It's called Providence 2. That's like the nickname to it. I don't know the official name. It's over there off of Browns Ferry. Providence 2.
Off of Browns Ferry, you talking about?
That's what they call it.
West, like you're headed towards Athens?
Yes.
I know exactly where you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
If you're headed towards like you're going to that Buc-ee's?
Yes.
It's on your left-hand side.
Yes.
See, I go by there a lot because I live right near there. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm going to hit the interstate, honestly, a lot of times whether I'm going north or south, I just go that way because it's easier. And, man, shout out Buc-ee's beef jerky.
Oh, yeah, Buc-ee's does have some good beef jerky.
You know, if I'm going to go on a trip, I honestly, man, I'll go out of my way a little bit to stop by there and get me a pound of beef jerky. And so I've just got it.
You're talking all different flavors, too.
Whatever you can think of.
And it's not cheap.
No, it's not.
What is it, $20 a pound?
30, I think.
Oh, my goodness.
$30
I know
a pound.
my daughter wanted some.
Yeah.
Maybe like when that Buc-ee's first opened up, we went up there and she's like, I want some jerky. And I went over there. I was like, okay, let's get some jerky. Then I seen the price. Oh,
yeah.
I already put my money where my mouth was, so I had to. Had to pony up. And like, I guess we getting jerky, You
know what? I write it off as a business expense. I'll be honest with you. Mm-hmm, and you know what? I'm eating it when I go out on an event, Like
and
if I've got to go, if I've got to go and be gone for a couple of days.
That's another good thing about being a business owner.
Right.
Entrepreneur.
You reap the rewards of some of the things that you count as a business expense.
Correct.
Because you're the only employee. Your employees would get that meal or that beef jerky or whatever it was in another way, in another case. So, yeah, that is one of the things.
Yeah, so Friday we was at Providence 2. I don't know the official name.
What were they doing over there?
They do a market like every first Friday.
Really?
It was their third market. It just started not long ago, and it was my second time doing it. Sales wasn't that great.
Sure.
Not great at all, because a lot of people don't even know about that place.
Sure.
I wouldn't even known about that place
and
if
even
it wasn't for the market.
That's pretty well off of the beaten path.
It really is.
It won't be before long. But for right now,
yeah, because it's growing up, and if you go over there in that area, a lot of those apartments are still kind of empty. So I'm thinking once they fill all those apartments and those houses and stuff get sold and built, it'll be a lot better market. Let's say come next year, or the year out there,
and you'll be on the ground floor of it.
Yes. So sales wasn't that great, but I had a Saturday morning market, which I was going to be short on help, so that allowed me time to just build up some stock for Saturday morning.
Okay,
at Bailey Cove. And then Sunday, of course, Mid-City performed a little bit better this past Sunday than it did the last few Sundays.
Well, it's been real hot, but this was the first Sunday school was back in.
Correct.
And that always helps.
And I'm noticing a trend, like the beginning of the months are always better with sales. I don't know if people's getting their checks or whatever, money's a little bit better at the beginning of the month than towards like the mid and end.
I don't know if I've noticed that. That's interesting. I'll take a look.
Take a look at your numbers. So like that first Sunday of the month is always, from a trend point of view, always perform a little bit better at these markets. But it was definitely a hot one. It's been hot all week.
Yeah.
I know Thursday was probably the hottest day I experienced this year so far. This past Thursday, we was at Green Street, like I said, and I had to shorten my menu. I was like, honey, we doing a limited menu today because I didn't feel like popping as much because when we pulled up, my truck was already hot like if I was popping nonstop.
Wow.
That's how hot it was.
Just rolling
Thursday.
up.
Just rolling up, before I even lit the kettle,
Do the sides of your, can you tilt up the sides where it's just open to the air in the back there, or is it just that mesh?
It's just that mesh. And that's from a food safety and health department. They want to have like a stringed in area wherever you cook food at. They don't want you open air, because of bugs.
For sure.
Like
and you don't want bugs in your popcorn.
You definitely don't.
You don't want not one.
I don't want to complain I found a fly or mosquito in my popcorn.
Or a bee.
So now now that's damage control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And You know, it's always easy to address
or
a problem.
I choked on it, or it stung me. I was at a bar one time back when I used to go to bars. But I was at a bar in Gunnersville, sitting by the lake. This was an open air, kind of like a tiki bar, but not really. Anyways, I'm just sitting out there having a margarita with a friend, chilling. Next thing you know, I look down and there's a bee, just a little yellow jacket or whatever in my margarita. And I go to try to fish it out. You know, I was using my straw or whatever because it was alive. I didn't want it to sting me, right? So I'm trying to fish it out and I can't get it out. And my friend and I are laughing about it, whatever. And the waitress comes over and sees what's going on. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she runs back. She makes another martini and brings it back. And by this time, I've already got the bee out. He's put somewhere else. He probably flew away or whatever it was. Anyway, she sets down the martini. I said, thank you so much for replacing that. She went to take the first one. No. What you going to do with that? So I'm going to throw it away. Hang on a second. Yep. I just tilt it back, put it back in one, handed it to the glass. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. She just kind of looked at me and laughed, and I got a free martini out of it. I mean, it wasn't a martini. It was a margarita. That's what I was. Yeah, margarita. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I've experienced something.
That was a fortuitous bee right there. I was happy about that. That bee didn't bother me not a bit.
That bee was pretty drunk too.
I bet it was messed up.
Yeah, I wonder how long it took him to recover. I wonder do bees get hangovers?
I wonder how that honey would taste.
He's flying back drunk to the,
I wonder how that honey would taste.
Might be some good stuff. Alcoholic honey.
Alcoholic honey.
Yeah. You ever had Scott's honey over there in Mint City? His name,
I'm sure.
I want to say they're Scott's Farms or whatever, but regardless, man, they got some of the best honey.
I'm sure that's probably what we use at home because Jessica uses honey in her coffee. So
natural honey, natural organic honey.
You can't beat it.
You can't beat it. I mean, I like the real dark stuff.
I do too.
The stuff that comes that's the summertime honey.
I like the one that's got the comb still
dark.
in it.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
It's some good stuff.
Yep.
Like I can almost just take a spoonful of it and just, have at it.
For sure.
Honey.
And it's not really that bad for you. It's got a lot of sugar in it, but it's not that bad of sugar. It's not like high fructose corn syrup. Fructose.
Correct.
So yeah, honey doesn't
more natural.
Yeah, if I'm going to use a sweetener, I use that in like herbal tea. I use herbal tea from Herbal Remedy. Shout out Jess at Herbal Remedy. She makes a tea. It's called Cold Care. Anyways, anytime I'm feeling like my immune system is down, I'll take some of that.
I never had any of her product.
Yeah, that Cold Care is good. I don't know about the rest of it.
Definitely have to try it.
It's got peppermint in it.
Oh, I love peppermint.
Yeah, a little peppermint in that tea. You put some honey in there.
Peppermint just pairs well with tea.
It does. And when you're sick, a little peppermint kind of brings it out of you, I like it. I like it. So, yeah, I ran out of that this weekend. I'll have to get some more this next weekend.
Most definitely.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, but definitely shout out those people.
Jess from Herbal Remedy.
Remedy and Scott's Honey.
Scott's Honey. Shout out Scott's Honey.
Shout out Scott's Honey.
Good stuff.
Scott's I've ever had in my life.
I'm sure I've had it, but now I'm going to make a point to make sure I've had it.
Oh, most definitely. Go check it out.
Yeah, I will. I will for sure.
I try to get it. I try to keep a big jar.
Oh yeah, I never buy the little jar
on deck.
Nah, I never buy the little jar because honey's good forever. There's they got to put an expiration date on it, but realistically, honey is good forever.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think they found honey in like the pyramids.
For sure. Have you heard of that hallucinogenic honey?
Yes, that's in the mountains.
Yeah,
they got
you got to risk your life to get there.
Yeah, but get high as hell.
And it's like, okay, now you got to get back down. Surely you climb back down before you eat the honey.
You might want to.
Yeah.
I would recommend, taking handfuls of it while you're up there.
Yeah, that's probably not a good
honey's
idea.
Honey's packed full of great nutrition
and
energy.
Yeah.
It's like a survival food.
For sure.
Honey. It's amazing we're talking about honey.
It's organic.
We just flowing, honey. Who would have known? Who would have thought,
but
we'll be talking about honey.
That's interesting because, and I don't know how much we've really talked about it, but the origin of this podcast was just these conversations, but out on the corner at Mid-City or whatever,
Right. I think we haven't really covered like our true origin story. Or if we have, I don't.
It kind of just
remember.
Flowed.
Yeah.
If we didn't know Kevin, would one of us have sought out an independent studio and figured out how to get some time
be
there?
like in our garage,
with an
iPhone or something, or GoPro,
some carpet hung up.
Nothing as fancy as this.
No. Out in my shed in the back, we hang blankets on it so the neighbors can't.
This is definitely professional.
Way better than what we would have.
Oh, 100 times.
We would have some Amazon $99.99 mics.
Right.
Is what we'd be doing.
You know,
not this professional setup.
No, this is very professional.
86 Kid Studios.
86 Kid Studio.
So, yeah, when did we first start talking about doing a podcast?
I want to say last season, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. It was a joke at first.
Mm-hmm.
We should just record this. People listen to it. And then one of us kind of looked and was like, maybe they would. That sounded weird. Maybe they would. Kevin said, you can't fix that, Shane. You just messed up. You're out there now. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow the suggestion came that it might have been one of our wives. I could hear now somebody talking about,
man, put this on.
Y'all like to talk enough. You might as well try and make some money at it.
Right.
I don't know who it would have been. Maybe both of them. They may have collabed behind our backs.
Who knows?
Yeah, well.
Who knows?
Hey, it was a good idea if it was, though. So
it really is.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're here.
It's interesting, too. We talked about this as we both pulled up today. I was late today. We've kind of all had our struggles getting here. But, everybody that's here doing this has another gig or two or three. Mm-hmm. And we all have young children. A couple of us babies and another one that's, still not a teenager.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's not like we got time sitting around,
Right.
Nobody really here is probably watching much of the Simpsons or, you catch the highlights. We're busy people, and yet we've made time to come down here now. This is our fourth time meeting here and doing this podcast.
Yes.
It almost feels like a friend at this point.
Episode 4.
I get excited coming down here.
I do too.
Like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I have to meet my wife at her part-time job to drop off our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like it's a child custody thing. You never had to deal with that, did you?
Never. Never had to deal with that. But I've known people who have. And
I'm going to tell you, man, there's you can see it a lot of times. Like if you sit in a McDonald's, so if you can't get along, like y'all can't agree on anything, we'll meet at the A&P grocery. I ain't meeting in no dang A&P. I'll meet you in Arby's parking lot. Arby's, that place, you go back and forth like that. Finally, the judge will be like, look, you're going to meet where I tell you to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't care whether you like it or not. And a lot of times that's a McDonald's. It's a good place to meet with kids. It's a public spot where there's plenty of people around. You're unlikely to get into a fight in front of the kids. There's food there that the kids can get quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Correct.
It's a really a good place to meet, to arrange a child custody swap. And if you sit in a McDonald's, you'll see it. There'll be a dude pulled up somewhere, or there'll be a woman. One of them's got kids in the car. They usually get there first. And then the one that's picking up the kids usually gets there second. They do the exchange
is
in the
that by
parking lot.
Design? Like, okay, you get here at this time.
Nah, I think it's just the way it happens.
Yeah, the way it just kind of plays out.
Just the way it plays out. I'm not real sure why. I did it for years.
With your kids?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so you had to go through this.
For sure. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. I don't wish that on no one.
Every 2 weeks, every other Thursday, if you can get them to work it out. I live too far away to do the every other Thursday. But I lived in Columbus, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of a story. I don't know if I should tell it on this podcast.
Okay.
I will tell it on this podcast. But anyways, I lived in Columbus, Georgia at the time, so I had to make the drive back and forth. And the judge,
to where?
To Oxford, Alabama. A little over 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
It was midway point.
Every 2 weeks.
Because my ex-wife's family was from here. And so every 2 weeks, one of us had to meet, and we couldn't agree on anything. So that was what the judge decreed. You will meet in Oxford, Alabama at the McDonald's there and blah, blah, blah. So that's what we did. That was not acceptable for me. I get to see my kids for like 2 days every 2 weeks, and hours of that are spent driving. That's a mess, which brings me full circle around to how I came to Huntsville.
Mm-hmm.
I came to Huntsville because I needed to be near where my kids were. My daughter was a year old. And my son was, no, that was, it was way later than that. My daughter was, I can't remember their ages at that time now. It was a long time ago.
Definitely
but
young.
Anyways, they were young, yeah, but they were, about school kid age, I suppose at that time, or pretty close. My son was anyways. Well, I'd have to really think back. If they're listening to this, sorry guys, I don't remember. That was a long time ago. But anyways, that's why I came to Huntsville, so I could be near my kids. I wasn't happy with that every other weekend and talking on the phone. And, that's no way to, I'm a firm believer, if you have to divorce, but act like grown-ups.
right,
and do what has to be done to do what's best for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't feasible for her to move to where I was living. And why would she? She'd never lived in Columbus, Georgia. You know, that was kind of stupid. But I had lived here, and she had a whole family structure here that could help her. And it only made sense for her to be living here.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, there was no alternative but to move up here so I could be closer.
Most definitely.
Now, that's a sanitized version. There was some drama in there. You know, we were young and stupid. And so there was most definitely some drama in there. But, you know, I moved to Huntsville, and my ex-wife and I sat down and talked it out, and that was really the last problem that we ever had. You know, we worked things out agreeably between ourselves ever since that. And, yeah, it was a good move. I'm glad I came up here, you know. I was able to spend time with my children. So that, you know, that was everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the driving to Columbus story.
Okay.
There's a small town. We'll leave it unnamed.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Wouldn't it be wild to get busted for something in retrospect? I don't think I could get busted. I think I'm clean.
Nah, you wouldn't.
I've checked, and there's no, you know, there's nothing out there on me. I've gone through the process. I've bought guns since then, so, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I had to drive through this small town called Wedowee, Alabama. Every time, there and back. Little speed trap of a town. And when I say a speed trap, they had a jail almost as big as Huntsville's jail, and the town had like 10,000 people living in there at the most. Well, this was in the mid to late 90s. Wedowee is one of those towns in Alabama that you folks not from Alabama have heard of. You know that town you've heard of that's prejudiced against anything that's not like them?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it was real easy to put that on black folks at the time, but you wouldn't want to be Chinese in that town either, or any other race, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you wasn't a good white-blooded American, red-blooded white American, whatever you had to be. Boy, you better have a dip in your mouth. But Wedowee was that way, and this is not speculation, because several years after this, or before this, right in the time of this, the principal of the local high school made national news by saying that he would cancel the prom before he would allow interracial couples to attend the prom.
Wow.
This was in the 90s that this happened in Wedowee, Alabama. You can look this up. I'm not making this up. So, of course, that caused a national uproar. Mm-hmm. NAACP came into town, and, you know, that was one of those things where everybody just kind of went, what? You know, it'd be like if you were at a cocktail party and somebody peed their pants, you know, you just look over, it was crazy that the principal in this town, you know, it was a national deal. So, of course, you know, the media and even law enforcement descended on them. Hey, you can't even legally do that. It ain't about what, you know, everybody thinks. It's about the law. And so the principal stepped down or agreed. I can't remember how, but one way or another, the prom was going to go on, and anybody that could attend was attending. You know, nobody was going to be barred from attending. So the principal's son burned the school down.
Oh.
He did prison for that. And once again, you can look this up. This is Wedowee, Alabama, a place where I'm in a 74 El Camino with a 350 engine in it, and I've just dropped off my kids. I'm not in a good state of mind, man. I'm going to go through this southern town. They better not stop me. I don't care who this is. I'm going, right? Like I'm smoking the man or something. I'd go flying through these little towns, right? But Wedowee didn't play. I had this big old jail, right? So whoop, whoop, whoop. They pulled me over and they got me. Gave me a speeding ticket. That's all it was, right? My young dumb self put it off. Anyways, didn't pay the speeding ticket. Yada, yada, yada. Let this go on for a really long time, an embarrassing amount of time, to the point where a bench warrant for my arrest was issued for
in
failure
Alabama,
to appear
though.
in Wedowee, Alabama.
In Wedowee, Alabama.
But my license was also suspended because of this, right? You know, anywhere in the state.
Did you have a Georgia's license?
No, I had an Alabama license.
Okay, I was going to say, if you had a Georgia's license, they typically don't suspend you state to state.
This is Alabama, and this is in Alabama. One way or another, I'm busted, and I'm guilty of the crime. You know, I didn't show up to court. But then it goes to a point where you're scared to show up to court because you're scared what's going to happen. Am I going to go to jail? You know, listen, I'm scared. I can't go to jail, right? So anyways, long story short, I finally said I got to do something about this. Put together a big old pack of money, called a bail bondsman, explained the situation. He kind of laughed at me and says, yeah, go on down there. If they get you, call me up and I'll come on down there and get you. You got plenty of cash, right? Yeah, I got plenty of cash, right? So I went down there, yada, yada, yada. They filled out some paperwork, fined me $600, and sentenced me to 40 hours of community service in Wedowee, Alabama. 40 hours of community service. Wow. This has gone on for a long time, guys. And it really, you know, I can't fault the sentence, right? So I'm living in Huntsville. Judge says, okay, every Monday for the next 5 weeks. You got to do 8 hours on a Monday. If you need something for your job, I'll give you something for your job that orders them to allow you to come. But whatever it is.
And it's a 2-hour drive from Huntsville.
2-hour drive, hour and a half.
Okay.
2 hours, something like that. Depends on how fast you got that El Camino going.
Right.
Frankly, now I'm scared, right? So here's the thing. I go down there the first time to do my community service, and I'm like 15 minutes late, and I'm supposed to be on the bus with all the DUI people picking up trash on the side of the road, right? And I'm like 15 minutes late, and the bus is already pulled out. Clerk's like clucking her tongue at me. She says, go see the judge. And I go see the judge, explain the situation. He was cool. He let me go work with Leroy. Leroy was the janitor of the courthouse. Now, keep in mind the era that I told you that this town was going through, right? Leroy was the only black man I'd seen in the whole place. And I think it was meant to me as an insult. My attitude was I was inside emptying clean waste paper baskets. I wasn't out on the road with dead possums or whatever it was. I was Leroy's best buddy. And Leroy was cool. Leroy was super cool. Like, we had to take some stuff to the dump. So we go to the dump and we drop this stuff off and throw it out there, and he kind of grins at me, and he reaches behind the seat of this little S10 he's driving. He pulls out a .22 rifle. He says, come on, let's go shoot some rats. We spent like 45 minutes shooting rats at the dump. So long story short, turns out Leroy liked to take a drink.
Okay.
And Wedowee is dry, and every place around Wedowee was dry for a long time. And me and Leroy got to talking about the possibilities of a boy who came all the way from Huntsville. Could it be that I could be signed off to work with Leroy again? What if you went to the judge and said, hey, I really need some help this week. This old guy was a real big help, blah, 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 right? So anyways, that's what we did. And the judge assigned me to Leroy, and when we went to the to the post office, we eased around the corner where I had my El Camino parked, and under a tarp in the back, I had a case of Budweiser and a fifth of Jack Daniels. And we surreptitiously transferred it to his S10 without saying anything to anybody. And good old Leroy signed off on all the rest of my community service, and I ain't never been back to Wedowee again in my life.
Wow. So every week he would just sign off before
he signed it off every week. I didn't even ever show up again, and I ain't never look. I'll drive a long ways around before I go through Wedowee.
A case of booze,
a case of Budweiser, and a fifth of Jack, worth every dime of it.
Wow.
That's a true story. Wedowee, Alabama.
That's amazing.
Man, but you know what? I've checked multiple times since then, and there's nothing out for me. So, I guess, boy, what's the statute of limitations? Man. This was a long time ago. How about
you turned that 15 minutes being late into like...
Worked out in my favor, did it not?
Something great.
Sometimes you're the windshield, and sometimes you're the bug. My only regret, I guess, is I wish that... if it was this day and time, me and Leroy would have kept up on social media. As it were, I'm not coming to your house, man. I don't care how good the barbecue is. I'm not coming to Wedowee. You know what I'm saying? I'm done with that place. But, that was a strange place back then, man. Back when that was kind of the last era where you could get away with being a real speed trap town, I guess, and they had a big old jail, man. Yeah, they filled it with people that couldn't pay.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a hustle.
Yep.
The big jail.
I got one on them, though.
Man.
I feel like I went to the casino and I left with money,
Wow. Case of Budweiser and a fifth of Jack.
And a fifth of Jack, yeah. Who says alcohol never comes to any good?
Hey, it did in that morning.
And you know what? I don't even drink anymore. Goodness. I did back then, though, but yeah.
Even if I didn't drink, I would have bought
100%.
Leroy a case 100%. Of Budweiser and a fifth of Jack.
That was kind of the opening salvo, quite frankly. I thought I was coming out generous, but I figured he'd come back with a little bit more, and he agreed to that, so... Okay, man. Yeah, for sure. That would have been worth a couple $100 for me not to have to come down there. And walk on the DUI, on the side of the road with those little tongs, picking up trash, putting it in a sack.
Wow.
I never had to do that, man. I dodged a bullet. Yeah. But it wasn't like I was drunk driving either. I just didn't pay a ticket for a really long time, and I paid the ticket and all the interest. So, I wasn't a nefarious criminal.
Correct.
Just a victim of the system and my own stupidity.
That was a good story.
Thank you, sir. I promise all of it's true.
I believe it. You couldn't even make that up.
I can't always say that about the stories.
You couldn't make that story up.
It's a true story. Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I told you where the truth is stranger than fiction.
The truth is stranger.
I wouldn't have been able to make that up if I tried.
It's a story that happened.
I don't have the creative juices.
I had a bunch of crazy stuff happen. When you drive that often on that same route, you start seeing little things. I had a story that I will not tell on air happen to me one time. That's all I'll say about that. If you remind me sometime, I might say it. I might tell you one-on-one. I don't know. I've never told. It's a story I've never told him. I just realized I did that. I've never told one person ever in the world this story.
Wow.
I'm definitely not telling it on air.
Put it in the book. Put it in the book.
Oh, it's a Fifth Amendment type of thing.
It is what it is.
I mean, no laws were. Well, yeah, no, some laws were.
New York Times bestseller.
New York Times bestseller. I'm over that now. I'm grown.
Put it in the book.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, if you want to know this story, you got to read the book.
Southern Hustle.
Southern Hustle.
Kettlecorn and Wooden Toys.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. Hey, guys, listen.
We don't put it out there.
Southern Hustle. Kettlecorn and Wooden Toys. What a great concept for a book.
It is.
I really think it's a good concept for a book.
Will we go like you first half of the book on last half, or kind of go chapter to chapter based, you know, like you get a chapter.
My initial thought was chapter to chapter.
Mm-hmm.
That was my initial thought. You do one, I do another. Not a rebuttal or an answer to the other person's. Almost as, okay, say we're going to do a 12-chapter book.
Mm-hmm.
You write a 6-chapter book, and I'll write a 6-chapter book, and then alternate the chapters. So the first one is your first chapter, and then the second chapter is my first chapter, and so on and so forth. So you got to keep up with two different. But it depends on what the book is. It wasn't my intention to write a fiction novel.
Like stories like this.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
The chronicles of our life.
The chronicles of our life. That's why we call it Vendor Chronicles.
Vendor Chronicles.
The intent here is not to teach anybody how to be a vendor.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point of this. It's not to give you a guide path that says, hey, I want to figure out how to be a vendor. I mean, we could certainly give some tips, I suppose, as how to get you started, but that's not what we're doing here. This is chronicling the life of two family men
who happen to be vendors,
who make a living vending a craft that they make.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the chronicles of that, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What got us here? You know, your origin is a huge part of where you are, I think.
Yeah.
How did we get to doing what we're doing? Some of these stories, like the Holy Dowie story, in some way, I'm sure that's shaped my psyche.
I mean, that's a great story.
You know, in some way, I'm sure that's the truth.
Leroy. Shout out Leroy.
Shout out Leroy.
Golly.
Man, Leroy was such a good dude.
Man, I think you got Leroy for cheap.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
but you know what? I got to be honest with you, man. I don't think very many people were very nice to Leroy. I think Leroy kind of...
And he definitely appreciated you.
I think he appreciated the fact that I didn't care what he looked like. He was a cool dude to me, and so I was going to be cool to him, you know. Plus, I was a pretty good shot with that little 22, man. We killed a bunch of rats.
Man, that's just another dynamic to that story.
Yeah,
we
went rat shooting at the dump.
At the dump.
Yep. While I was on court-ordered community service.
That's a great story.
That really can only happen in the South, I think. I think if you're like from L.A. or, you know, probably anywhere else, New York, Chicago, you're like, wait a minute, you were shooting guns in the dump? You were doing what?
Wow.
Wait a minute, he was riding around with a gun in his truck just loaded?
Well, you know, when I was a kid, we went to high school with rifles in the truck during hunting season.
For sure. That's
early 2000s.
Okay. Yeah, I graduated in 90.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely happening then.
I mean, you had a rifle.
Like if you got a shotgun for Christmas, you might bring it to school that first day after. I mean, nobody would be threatened.
Not at all.
Nobody would be threatened.
Not at all.
You might get in trouble for causing a scene in the parking lot because everybody wanted to see your cool new shotgun or rifle or whatever it was. Very seldom handguns.
It's crazy how times change.
As
a kid, you couldn't have a handgun. Handgun, you got to be 21.
Yeah. That was a problem.
But back then, you
had handguns. But you just couldn't, you carried them in the woods.
Yeah.
It was on the place. And it was probably a 22 revolver.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you learn how to handle a handgun,
Man, I got to follow that story up.
Which story?
Your Leroy story.
About the principal?
About the principal.
That you could
but
Google that.
My story would be more in the realm of how you talked about having to go see your kids every 2 weeks. And being separate from your kids. And I can follow up with a story why I've never been in that situation.
Okay.
Just from listening to someone that was older than me and was already in that situation.
This sounds like just what we need because I never listened to anybody older than me. I always had to take the hard way.
Hey, people, listen to your parents. if they got some sense and you know they have your best interest. But to kind of piggyback and segue off of that story you just told, Shane, which was a amazing story. I mean, I got tears in my eyes. Man. That's funny.
Thanks, man.
But I had just graduated. This would have been 2004, maybe. You know,
Okay.
I ain't been out of school long. And I go over to my grandma's house one Friday afternoon.
What part of the country is this? This is in Georgia,
It's in
right?
Atlanta, Georgia.
In Atlanta, Georgia.
My grandma stayed in the West End of
Okay.
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And so I go to my grandma's house, you know, and I was meeting up with some family, you know, like my uncle, which is my mom's younger brother, and my second cousin, which would have been my mom's first cousin.
Okay.
And so we get to my grandma's house. We all out there. We talking. My second cousin named Boot. His real name was Donovan, but we called him Boot.
Okay.
And my uncle name is Albert, but we called him Bert.
I get that, but how did Boot get his nickname?
I have no clue.
I always want to know
Because
those.
he's old. Boot's old enough to be my dad. He's my mom's first cousin, and he's older than my mom. So he's an older guy.
Okay.
So he's my
Okay.
second cousin, mom's first.
So probably
cousin.
nobody remembers how he got that nickname.
We probably don't. You know, I probably can ask his mom. You know, he's gone now. You know, but so I'm out there with Boot and Bert.
Boot and Bert.
Boot and Bert. Shout out
Boot and Bert.
Bert. You know, and so we outside my grandma's house. We're talking. You know, when Boot pulls up, he rides a motorcycle.
Okay.
And he still stays at home with his mom. And I'm telling you, he's old enough to be my dad and still living at home with his mom. And not by choice. He was an over the road truck driver.
Okay.
So he made pretty decent money.
Sure.
But Boot had a lot of kids and paid a lot of child support.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he pulls up, you know, we can see that he's kind of upset, you know. So he's talking and he looks at me, you know, look at me square in the eyes. And, you know, I can almost see tears in his eyes. And he says, they call me Quint. Quint. That was my name growing up. Quint.
Okay.
You know, I'm Quintellis, but they call me Quint. He said, Quint. He said, I just saw one of my baby mamas at the liquor store before I got here, cashing my check. And she told me exactly what she was going to do with my check.
Dang.
He said, she told me she was about to go get her hair done, her nails done, and go out to the club with my money. And he was like, there's nothing I can do about it. And he told me, he said, never have a baby mama and kids with multiple women. Because if so, you'll be me. And that stuck with me my whole life. I only got children by one woman. And gratefully, she hasn't left me. I gave her plenty reasons too, you know.
Sure.
But you know, thankfully, she's still.
How long y'all been married?
17 years.
17 years.
I've been married 17 years.
Okay.
And I'm not even 40 yet. Soon to be 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the secret to longevity? In a nutshell.
The secret is not putting your family in your business.
Not putting your family in your business. Explain. I think I know what you're talking about, but explain.
Oh man, let's see. So so it was a little bit easier for us because of the military.
Right.
So when we first got married, we was miles away from any family. So if she got mad at me, she couldn't run home to mom or dad.
Mm-hmm.
She would have to buy a blank plane ticket or be willing to drive 12 hours.
12 hours.
To get closer to whoever her family was. So we had to work it out.
Yeah.
We really did. It wasn't no safety net. You know, nothing to fall back on if it didn't work out between us. It was all or nothing.
It's a trip to Mars.
A trip to Mars.
If it don't work, there ain't enough gas to get you back.
It ain't.
You know what? I think that's wise. I think that's wise counsel to put some physical space between a young couple and their in-laws.
It is.
All of the in-laws.
It is.
Because they mean well. They all mean well.
Mm-hmm.
And they meddle and they get in your business. Well, what you ought to do, he did what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Boy, if your daddy did that, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, you don't mean to do those things, but you do. And I think that physical space is very good.
Yeah.
I think solid boundaries, I think they're one of the most important part of any relationship. Mm-hmm. Solid boundaries. This is where we stand. You know, in my house, my family is in my house. I've got 2 children that don't live in my house and they count. Mm-hmm. Other than that, that's our family. Everybody else is part of our extended family. And that doesn't mean we don't love you. That doesn't mean we don't care about you. It means I got to take care of mine first. Correct. If there's excess, then of course I'll share of whatever that is, whether it's time, whether it's, resources, whatever. But I got to take care of those that live in this house first, because as a man, that's my job. As an adult, that's my job. Not just as a man, that's my job. It's my wife's job too. It's both of our job to take care of those that live in our house. In our case, that includes a couple of dogs and a snake. But either way, they all got to be fed. We took that responsibility on, including ourselves. And that bond has to be stronger than any other bond. You got to be willing to walk away from any other relationship to be with your spouse, I think. It's hard to do.
I agree. But yeah, so to your question, that's my answer. Definitely not allowing, and I said family. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be anyone. Not allowing anyone in your business what goes on at your home. Outside of any physical abuse or verbal abuse.
Sure.
If that's going on, you probably need to leave.
Of course. And at that point, you owe it to everybody to talk to somebody.
Correct.
To get some help in that. I agree. 100%.
But just working out those petty marital disputes.
Yep.
You should be able to handle that and take care of that on your own. And I'm not saying don't seek advice.
That's different than, some of that ends up just bitching. And bitching leads to bad feelings. And it leads to, a poor me attitude. I've got it so bad. And sometimes you start thinking about how bad things are and you forget how good things are. I did that in a big way once. I did that in a real big way once. I lost sight of how great things really were. They say, what is it? Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Complacency.
It's a complacency. And I think that's probably a better way of putting it. Complacency. It's something you have to work on all the time. Man, we've been talking for almost an hour.
That's amazing.
It never seems like it's been this long.
It does not. It seemed like we just sat in this chair and just started rambling on.
Yeah.
But back to marriage, and we can probably move on from this, but don't take advice from someone who's definitely not married, I would say. And if you do take some type of counseling from someone that's married, hopefully they will have a good track record. I got 17 years under my belt. I'm pretty sure you got that, if not more.
Right at that.
I
have to sit and think about it. Let's see, 2007. We got married in 2007, so...
I think that's the year I got married. So, yeah.
Yeah, so same.
So, same. So
when did y'all get married? What month?
Oh, man. Why you had to put me on the spot? June 16th.
You put me on the spot talking about how long y'all been married. What if I couldn't have pulled it up?
June 16th, 2007.
That's one of those interesting differences, not to try, it's been run over by comedy, but we remember things differently. We don't necessarily always remember, I can't tell you right off the top of my head how many, but Jessica will tell you 17 and a half years. What are you talking about? Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Ladies think about things differently than we do.
Oh, man.
That's why it's so good to have both perspectives. You got to see from another perspective other than your own. Otherwise, you just, end up repeating the same dumb mistakes forever. You got to be able to see through somebody else's eyes. June 16th.
June 16th.
We got married October 20th.
Okay.
2007. Where geographically were you guys?
Georgia. Smyrna, Georgia.
Smyrna, Georgia.
To be exact.
I've been to Smyrna, Georgia.
Smyrna, Georgia.
I used to live in Rockmart, Georgia. You know where that is?
No.
You know where Rome is?
I definitely know where Rome
Cedar
is.
Town?
No Cedar Town, but I know Rome.
Okay. Probably 25 miles from Rome. Probably in a southwesterly direction, I believe. Don't quote me on that. It's been a minute. I'm pretty sure it's real close to Rome, Georgia.
Okay.
Lived there for the time I was 12 to the time I was 16.
Okay.
It's a weird time in your life.
Put some root down there. That is a weird time. 12 to 16.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
I'm 39. I still barely know what I don't know.
I'm 53 and I still don't. 52. I'll be 53 this fall. But yeah. That's and to me, the more you know, by definition, the wider you can see. And the wider you can see, the more you know you don't know.
I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago. And it was the Dunning-Kruger effect. And
we did talk about
we didn't talk about it on mic though. I don't think. It wasn't on mic.
Okay.
But basically the Dunning-Kruger effect is like, oh man, how can I word it? It's like the more you do something, the less you realize you don't know about that particular thing you're trying to do. Or when you first learn something, you think you know a lot more than what you really do know about that subject. And then the more you continue to do it, the less you start to realize and humble yourself and be like, man, I really didn't know what I didn't know.
Sure. The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger. They were two psychologists that studied the subjects of like how when someone first start out in something, their confidence is high. And as they start to do that particular something, whatever that subject may be, their confidence start to decrease because they start to realize what I thought I knew, I really didn't know. As opposed to when I first started, my confidence was way high.
Can you think of a specific example in your life that you've noticed that profoundly?
Just doing in the Kettlecorn business.
Okay.
Like when I first started out, I was like, oh man, I'm the man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I've been doing this for 5 seasons now.
Right.
And I still mess up a batch every now and then. And I'm thinking,
how many batches you think you've made?
Oh, wow.
100,000? 10,000?
Definitely probably 10,000.
Wow.
I wouldn't say 100,000. But I would say
5 years.
I pop more popcorn than 99% of the world.
How much do you? Oh, probably easily. Probably 99
So really,
72%.
I could consider myself a subject matter expert.
Oh, for sure.
In the realm of popcorn.
100%.
But I'm humble to know that I still mess up. I messed up about a month ago.
Even subject matter experts learn.
Still learning.
If you're not still learning, I mean, everything's always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it might be technology, crowds, where to go, everything changes. If you're not still learning, then you're going backwards. So, there's no such thing as a knowing it all. Subject matter expert doesn't mean you know it all.
Don't mean you know it all. And I'm humble enough to admit that. And like I said, I'm probably more experienced with popcorn than 99% of the world.
Easily.
And I'm still humble enough to say, hey, I messed up.
I haven't microwaved as many bags of popcorn as you have.
No,
you have cooked Kettlecorn. No. I'm saying in my whole life, I haven't even microwaved as many bags of popcorn as you've cooked.
I would say
from the
this week, I probably made, just this week alone, 30 batches maybe.
30 batches just this week.
30 batches. So we could probably do some quick math,
Yeah, I was starting to do that, but it's hard to know how many times you set up. What do you think an average time that it depends on the sales that you make.
It definitely depends on sale because it's a perishable item.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not just sitting there batching the entire time I'm at an event. Now, if sales coming in, yes, I'm working, I'm batching.
Be interesting to go back and see that.
I wish, I do wish my kettle had like a.
If you have item counts in your whatever sales record that you use electronically, however you take, whatever your POS system is, use Square or Shopify or.
I use Clover.
Okay, so if you could get a report in there of total transactions.
I get an estimate on how many bags per batch,
You could get an estimate and, you could go back however many, I don't know, that'd be interesting.
But definitely like 10,000 batches.
That's a lot. Wow.
That is, of popcorn.
Well, speaking of a lot, I'm going to have to get up and stretch my legs.
Oh, yeah.
How about some words of wisdom to leave us with?
Words of wisdom.
I'm waiting for it. Been on the edge of my seat all week. Literally, I can't wait to see what you're going to come up with. I love it.
I can say some crazy stuff. But I'm going to leave y'all with this. And I might have a few schools of thought. And speaking of thoughts become things. If you can think it, you can hold it.
Truth.
Very true. Even just Knox handmade toys. That was a thought, an idea at one point in time.
Absolutely. This podcast
was a thought. And now it has become a thing.
And it's interesting to think, if it's true that thoughts become things.
If you can think it, you can hold it.
Which means if you can't think it, you can't hold it.
No.
In other words, when you suppress thought, whether it's through language or education, whatever it is, when you make certain thoughts taboo,
mm-hmm.
where are you going to get any ideas from? If you can't have free range thoughts, there's no ideas that's going to come. That doesn't have to mean you have to be married to everything you think.
Correct.
You could spend 3 months thinking something entirely just wrong,
mm-hmm.
just as wrong as it can possibly be. And then you realize that you were wrong. Well, okay, but it was still worth the effort to go down that thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Now you understand someone else who thinks that way, and you might be able to help them see a different way of seeing something. So it's funny how the opposite's true. Go ahead. Sorry.
Hey, that was good. Thank you. And my last message to whoever's listening to this is, the past is history. The future is a mystery. The present is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Say it again.
The past is history. The future is a mystery. The present is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
That's fantastic.
Live in the now. That gift, that dream, that talent you have, do it now. Don't wait. You might not have a future.
And keep focused on the mystery, not the history. What's done is done.
What's done is done.
What's done is done.
You cannot change it.
The only way you can, my son and I had this conversation, the only way you can even try to overcome things that you've done that you wish you hadn't,
mm-hmm.
Those things we all have that we're not proud of.
Correct.
The only way you can even hope to overcome those things is by doing enough good things. You can't fix the wrong that you may have done, but you can do enough good things. It's like pouring clean water into a dirty water cup.
Mm-hmm.
Pour enough clean water in there, you got a clean water cup, you can take a drink.
Correct.
The past is history. The future is a mystery. The present is a gift.
The present is a gift.
See you next week on Vendor Chronicles.
We out.